And I think they've got a few shots of the morning and evening well up there. We can go ahead and kick the lights back on. I'm going to let Dax take the floor to speak a little bit about this, and then I'll come back up in a minute.
All right, so I'm used to being down there for this discussion, but the mic's much more convenient up here. So, hey, as we think through this, before we dig into the numbers and stuff, I think it's really important for us to kind of reflect, to take a moment to sit back. When we were meeting in schools and stuff, we were praying for meeting space so that we could have a place with Sunday school, so we could have a Sunday night thing, or when we had our meetings, we didn't have to find a different place to go, right? So that we didn't have to do setup every Sunday and load up a trailer. So those sound like relatively small things, but they were big at the time, right? Look at where we are and look at those videos that are there, right? That was a little bit bigger than what we had planned, and that's fantastic, right? The Lord has brought all those folks to these meetings, whether it's the kids stuff with the Awanas and what Shandi and the children's team have been doing there, our youth and Derek and Ben and Katie and Garrett and Harrison have all been doing. It's just been phenomenal. The Lord has brought all these folks with us, and the more that we grow things, the more this building is used, costs go up, right? When this air conditioner is running 7 days a week instead of a couple of hours a week, right? That drives up some of our cost. So as we dig into the numbers, keep that in mind, what's going on here, that these budget numbers that we're going to talk through reflect some of the changes. Quite candidly, when we were forecasting, we didn't know what it was going to take to run a facility like this, and to see the growth that we've seen on top of that. So there's a little bit of perspective there, right, for us to think about. So, and that said, don't freak out. I'm not fixing to tell you the budgets are tripling or anything like that. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look through this. You should have gotten a copy in the mail. If not, there's a version, the same copies on the end of the rows there for you. So as we dig in, the first thing is Chuck and Abe and Harrison are our finance committee, and they've done a fantastic job of working through this, along with all the staff folks and the other leaders, deacons and elders within the church, to really dig in deeper this year in ways that we haven't in the past. And that's a reflection not of how we used to do things, it's a reflection of how we've grown. And as things have grown and things have changed, we've got to adapt our processes to keep up with that. So fantastic work there. You'll notice the budget for this year has gone up by about $50,000. That reflects several things, most of those being around building and grounds and the things that I mentioned earlier. I work for the power company, and guess what? The power bill's gone up at my house too. But those things like that are what goes into this. We also have the missions budget down here, and I may get Paul if he's got some things to say on that in a second. But one thing you'll notice is I've talked a lot about the ministries that are up here, and this is going to be a little bit confusing maybe. We talk about how important these ministries are and how the ministries are this, but our funding for ministries is going down in the budget. It's not. Actually, our funding for the ministries is growing. One of the things that's in there is our denominational support that we have typically tried to contribute. There's a prescribed amount that we're per member that we contribute, and we've done that for most of the years. But in an effort to help manage our budget this year, we've rolled that back and are choosing this year that we will contribute at the end of next year out of excess, if we have left over in the budget, that we would contribute at that point. And so that, you got a big chunk coming down from what we've typically given back to in denominational giving, but our actual ministry growths have gone up, and a lot of those reductions are gone, and that's why it's only a reduction of $8,000. So So that's where we are. So we are presenting a budget from the leadership of $485,777 for our general fund giving. And we have a missions budget of $49,300 that is proposed. And the missions fund is broken up a little bit different than you're used to seeing it. I promise you that first line is not the salaries for the missions team. I know that several of them would love for that to be the case, and it's not funding their trip to Jamaica this year. They're paying for that on their own. So that's kind of where we are. That includes a lot of our local ministries, along with some other things that we fund outside of that. So, Paul, anything on that I missed? Great. Thank you, Paul. So as we wrap this up, I just want y'all to know that, yes, seeing these numbers grow to me, is something that just makes me a little uncomfortable at times, right? But then I have to back up and seeing the growth that we've seen on these slides and seeing those things. I didn't do that. God did that. And if he's doing that, I am completely confident that he will provide to cover those added expenses to support the things that are going on that he's doing here in our midst. So with that, are there any questions around the budget? Okay, thank y'all.
All right, thank you so much, Dax, for guiding us through that. And we can keep the video rolling just a second more, David, if you didn't cut it off yet. I would just add just one other thing to that. Last year, we kind of were in the same process too. We decided last year to say, let's increase the budget because we believe God's working. We're going to trust him. Ministries are growing. And we took that step of faith. And again, it doesn't have to work out this way. It's not a magic spell, but you all as a church body and new people that are coming in that you've seen joining our church and connecting with our church, I'm sure, are helping to fund that to where we are keeping on pace with what we took a step of faith with last year. And so that's what we're hoping will happen again this year as well. So yeah, thank you all for letting us share that. We can go ahead and cut the video off now. It'd be great, David. And